Hey, what's going on, guys? It's
I'm
Yoji.
interrupting him.
No, what? Now I'm totally put off my game. I can't do an
That's
intro
exactly what I
anymore.
was gonna do.
That's
Keep
really
going,
horrible.
Yoji.
But but we got RalphTheExile here with us. He's a Path of Exile YouTuber, mainly Path of Exile thing, and he does videos and stuff. And we have Project BT, who's rude and interrupts people during intros. He's like the
Never
worst
happened.
person. And
You
we're
have
doing.
no video evidence of this ever happening.
Oh yeah, that's true. I should start recording these. And we got an ambulance, perfect timing as well. I script those as well. So yeah, hilariously scripted non-tryhard podcast is running in the third episode. And I think this time we will be very Path of Exile centric, I'm guessing, because we got Ralph who plays a lot of
Legends.
Path. Oh, and League of Legends. We're gonna talk 90%.
League of Legends.
90% League of Legends.
Play it all the time. As in rarely, except you and Yoji.
All right. So yeah, we got Ralph here. The main reason we have you here is because we are too lazy to make up topics ourselves. So what do you want to talk about?
Oh man, what do I want to talk about? Well, I want to talk about the downfall of grinding gear games, how
Ooh, I didn't say
vicious.
it. You did.
No, I want to talk about the complete Diablo-3-ification of my beloved childhood, seeing as how I'm 11 game, and yeah, just how everything went to hell, you know?
All right. Yeah, that's.
All
I
right,
never played
so
T3, so I don't really know that part.
Start being specific then.
Yep.
What's the
All right.
downfall in your thoughts?
All right,
It's
so
Yoji. This video is getting downvoted to hell. You know that already.
Oh, that's good.
no, I'm just trolling. My whole YouTube channel is about PoE, but
Yeah, but
know,
they're not going to listen past that comment. They're just going to like, oh, downvote, done video.
Downvote, close video.
it's true.
That's
It's
it.
true.
Not
It's
enough.
true. Well, in general, like in a really general sense, if you compare PoE now to PoE back then, I mean, yeah, and you could be nostalgia, rose-tinted glasses, but if you compare it to D3, and you think about things like how it came out with the auction house and how it came out being a very quick-paced game, very arcadey, you just sort of slay monsters, and you rely on trade for gearing your character, like with the real money auction house or just the auction house. PoE has only made steps towards that, where it's more arcadey, where you are more reliant on trade to have a finished character.
Yeah, the reliance on trade is definitely true. I mean, I'm trying Cellphone now for the first time. I just played yesterday, started the 2 week as Cellphone. Mainly because of you two guys, because of your bad influence on my play. Because
Yes.
PT playing Cellphone himself for obvious reasons, and you talking about trade all the time and how like character progression is like too much facilitated, which I can kind of agree with a little bit. Like the progression of characters these days in PoE is a little bit weird in my opinion. It's you kind of you level if you trade, you level a character through leveling. You buy like a few leveling items, maybe a few weapons. If you are attack based character, maybe you buy like a leveling like a life sprig and level with that to level 68 and Dried Lake and whatever. Then you at like level 70, 75 ish, you buy mapping, like you buy an upgrade for like most gear piece slots, and then your character is basically done till level 90.
Well,
Yeah.
then, and I do remember watching Ralph has a video when he discusses kind of the velocity of trade, how that gears up, and the power that players gain with that. He wanted to try to discuss opportunities of solutions, but the player base or GGG kind of has to decide, does that mean that they should move more towards trade being an essential part of the game, in which case trade improvements need to happen and not be behind paywalls? Or should they slow down trade and then clean up the difficulty curve? So have you done solo self-found, Ralph, at all?
Basically what happens is I'll start solo self-found every single league, and it's like a drug. I go to that PoE trade. You buy like one ring, it'll have weapon elemental damage, it'll have a life, it'll have resists, and then it kind of snowballs from there. It's like, like, why am I even trying to find gear? Why am I even trying to craft gear? It takes such a small amount of, currency. It's not like you're actually crafting, like you don't actually see a chaos orb as, oh, re-roll a rare. You see it as buy an item that someone's going to use to roll their maps because they picked up this ring while just speed clearing maps. You know what I mean? And it wasn't good for them, so they give it to you. So yes, I try solo self-found, and I really like it, but it's so hard when everyone else and people try to be like, well, just, don't let other people's gaming experience affect you. And I mean, that's kind of bogus. Like, you can't pretend like it's not going to affect you. And, Chris Wilson even stated, he said, like, it affects the game balance. And the whole overall pacing of the game for everyone else is different. Like, Merciless Lab is not balanced around not trading, you know?
Yeah, definitely not. I'm
One
not even sure if it's balanced around doing it at the level of the map itself. Like, it's level 68, but if you do it at level 68, it's
pretty
insanely
rough.
difficult. Yeah, it's pretty difficult. I did it at level 66 once and I died. I did it at level 68 and I almost died 3 times, but I did it. But it was still pretty rough.
Tried as 68 as hybrid.
Dude, that's the only
EMP,
way I enjoy Lab.
EMP said, for example, like related to what we're talking about trade, Rise QT, who's doing the 2-week racing event, he's fully geared on his Sparker. He has a Voltaxic, Drill Neck, and other GG items 15 hours into a new league. Now, that's obviously a higher end, if not top end of the spectrum.
Yep.
And you plan, those are people who are looking for an item and are just hunting them from the get-go to get everything. But there's a lot of high-end uniques now because of the increased drop rate of uniques, particularly with the Cataro in the Parandus League. And there's going to be tons and tons of uniques to drop during the 2-week because it's just going to be loot every fucking where.
Yeah,
like,
exiles
all
and
the
all the
fucking
things.
time.
Yep.
So it's going to be easy for solo self-found. How far have you gotten so far at Yoji with your SRS build that you're doing?
I'm still in normal. I'm still in normal Act 3. I just played casually yesterday, and I actually got an insanely good drop that I would never have been as happy about if it wasn't self-found, because
Guns of Earl?
I got a 15% SRS in Ledge normal.
Oh,
That's
really?
15% move minion speed
Oh, wow.
right there. I was really happy, and normally it would be like, oh yeah, I saved like a few chaos, I guess. But now it's like, hey, that's 15 GCPs, or like leveling the gem to 20 almost. That's like so much.
Yeah, those moments are pretty great,
Yeah.
aren't they?
That was the first point where I was like, hey, this is definitely a lot of extra fun that I'm getting out of this already at this point, because just like one random drop that normally would be saved for chaos, yeah, whatever, is now oh yeah, that's pretty GG. And yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's pretty strong. It's pretty strong.
And then you're also going to be using your currency for crafting rather than just trading for the item that you would never be able to craft.
Yeah, I will actually try to craft a +2 or maybe a +3 if I get lucky staff. I will grind for the Divination card in Tropical Islands for the 5-link staff, and then try to make it a +2. That's something I wouldn't usually not do, because +2 fire gem staves for SRS are insanely cheap normally. Like, after the first few days, they usually get down to like a few chaos.
I remember I had to do 20 tropical islands to get one Flora's gift set for some reason.
I'm gonna actually roll the Flowers Gift for some quantity, just to get just to get like, just roll them blue for like the little bit of extra drop rate, because usually you can get like every few maps you can get like one, at least from
Yeah,
my
you should be
previous
able to
experience.
get an entire set in 2 maps
Yeah.
without much ease, but I would apparently luck was not my friend.
Yeah, sometimes RNG just decides to be an outlier and do the random thing that nobody thinks is possible.
Ralph isn't talking enough. Talk more, Ralph. Say things.
All right. The Flora's Gift, it's actually funny you guys bring that up. That is like the only good divination card in my opinion. The only one that seems to have a reliable function. Well, compared to Gambler just giving you useless stuff.
But
It just
useless
seems
things. I like useless things.
it seems like such a solo self-found feature when they announced it. It was like, oh, divination cards. Legit on the blog for Awakening, you can reliably farm up, the acquisition of certain items or whatever. And then when you try to farm it, it's like, oh, it drops in this high tier map. It drops in the Arsenal map. And I know that I get Arsenal maps all the time. It's just like, it's such a joke.
Yep. I like how PT's turned in because of a comment in chat.
Nothing happened.
Oh, damn. But yeah, about the divination cards being reliable, I think there are like a few of them that are pretty good. For example, the 6-link Astroplate one in Crypt. That's another one. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Everyone always talks about that one, yeah.
that's the one you can do. Dapper Prodigy is something a lot of people do, where they where they either farm like a few of them and then buy a few others. And
See,
get a 6 link like that. I've seen a lot
that's
of people do that. Like Ziz, for example, really likes to use that card.
that's the hilarious thing about divination cards, though, is that you're not actually farming an entire set yourself and exchanging it for the item. You're just clearing through maps and, oh, okay, I'm randomly doing a crypt. I find the card, I'm selling it. Someone is collecting the set, and then you're just inflating the economy with them, and it just makes trade even better.
Yeah, or you farm like a few cards and buy the rest. So you just basically like farm. The cool thing about it is you can farm like half a 6 link now. Before you couldn't do that. You either have the fusings and get the 6
Yeah.
link, or you don't. Or you either have the exalts and have a 6 link, or you don't. Now you can be like, okay, I have like, let's buy just like 50 crypt maps to see how many cards I get, or I get 2 divination cards out of 6 of the celestial Justica, and then be like, all right, I guess I can buy 4. I can afford that and buy 4, and that kind of works.
Well, one of the things about divination cards that I always like to bring up, they're not where they need to be. Divination cards were not designed to allow you to solo self-found an item.
Yeah.
Their designed intention is, rather than randomly finding eventually a 10 exalt item or a 2 exalt item, you could get fractional values, which means the average currency that you should gain over a period of time should stay constant. But the variance, which is how likely you are to reach the average, should decrease. That was the objective of divination cards. They were never made that, oh, there's a 6-link divination card, I can now farm a 6-link solo self-found. That was never an intention. That being said, it's very, very clear that certain divination cards are hilariously hard to complete,
Yep.
that are significantly shitty.
Yeah, there's
And
some
other
sets
ones
that
are like, oh, you want it? Just 5-link staffs all day, every day.
Yeah, like one corrupted tropical island, get a 5-link staff. I just sell it for the jewelers because they drop so much. Like, it's so stupid.
Then you only get a 5-socket one and no jewelers.
And
That's the worst feeling.
I've
the
never
other-
gotten a 5-socket one.
I got
Ever.
one a few times.
they-
Did you see the guy who got a gnarled branch 5-link? Like very early on when they didn't exclude the gnarled branch from it? Because
yeah.
gnarled branch can only be 4-linked, right? It's like the fan call. It's like a linear staff that can only have 4
wasn't
links.
it 3 links and then it was like incompleted on the
Yeah,
forum?
yeah, it was incompleted, but it had apparently like in the data files had like 5 links. That was pretty hilarious. But I think they just took gnarled branch out of it now.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
The other problems you have is, remember there was the divination card, the Avenger, that came out when Mjolnir was like 35, 40 exalts.
Yeah.
Mjolnir now is an exalt.
Yep.
And it's hilariously rare because it seems the decision of the card was made maybe a bit lean towards the value of it as a third-party item, not inherently just its rarity.
Yeah.
So
Do you think there should be that functionality, though, where there's something you can reliably farm? I mean, the only
No.
thing with like those loot tables is at Siri. I mean, people go crazy for that kind of stuff, but that's not
Vinctus.
exactly reliable.
Yeah, Vinctus as well. Like,
Yeah,
people
Vinctus, yep.
love Aziri. Aziri is one of the most successful pieces of content GG has ever put into the game. People still be like, "Oh, is this Aziri viable? I want to make an Aziri build. Aziri farming. Aziri, oh my god!" So yeah, Aziri is really popular, and I think it is one of the most successful pieces of content they ever put in because it's a mechanical boss. People apparently like that. It's still pretty difficult, although like today it's not as difficult as it used to be.
and
They
it
don't-
feels like a boss.
And it
Yes.
feels like an actual boss fight, and the map also like the pre-bosses also feel like somewhat like an actual like dangerous boss fight, and not just like a face roll. Like everyone who's doing Aziri for the first time, especially in hardcore, you know, like okay, I just bought the set. That this could be dangerous. Like I better prepare for this. I better look it up how it works, and then or make like a tanky character and just
And then you accidentally overscale it and you're like, huh, whoops.
and then then there's still Uber Aziri as well. And I think we don't have anything else. Like even Victor Square is a lot easier than Aziri from my experience. You can just like kite it out a lot more. Aziri is like
Which one did you die in?
I died to like really bad play, but I found Victor's this patch on my support a little
I'm
bit.
just being a dick.
I know that's normal.
I'll never
get
forget
two
when I.
victors because I didn't solo self-found all 4 stabs. Who would have guessed?
Yeah,
yeah.
see, that's the problem with that. I mean, you can just be like Yoji. You can just do it Siri instead and just stand in the double flame blast and live on hardcore.
That's how you do it. But you can only do that if you before that tank 3 Storm Golds, and then you run into the double Flame Blast, tank that as well, and then you kill it Zeri. That's what I did.
I was
I
freaking
tried
out
it.
when I watched
Your
that.
strat didn't work for me.
Yeah, I saw that. That was a bit unfortunate. I think you were just not tanky enough.
Well, with the divination cards, one of the things you have is you have very restrictive numbers. And the other thing is they're designed to be completed with trade, as Joji was saying. You can get like half of a 6-link and then buy the rest of the value. And like Dapper Prodigy would be a good example, or the 6-link Astral Plate that you can get from Crypts. One of the problems though is and I don't mind divination cards being less powerful. They're designed by players. But for example, the Chaos Orb one, which has hilariously limited drop locations, village ruin, and a zone that you just walk through and never kill a mob. When trade is inefficient and a bit of a pain, it's never worth trading to complete that set because you're trading for a chance orb.
Yep.
And if trade was to be slowed down, the tier of divination cards that would become useless, let's say trade was 3 times more annoying, right? Because they want to slow it down, gauge it a little bit more. Would you trade for a Chaos Orb ever? It's
Yeah, I see what you're
just
saying.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like even right now, sometimes like let's say like 3 or 4 weeks into a league, I usually like unlist my 1 chaos tab and like only sell items for 2 chaos plus. Especially if I'm mapping. Usually when I'm re-leveling, I don't mind as much because the chance of me finding something more valuable than 1 chaos during that time is not very high anyways, and I don't really mind leveling a little bit slower. But when I'm mapping, like basically everything I ID could be worth way more. So like leaving the map and sell an item for 1 chaos is not worth it at all at that point. I usually only sell like 2 to 3 chaos items after like a few weeks in.
And that system, though, ends up just continuously screwing over the people who would be newer to the game and want the 1 chaos items, want those random leveling gears that people just like, fuck it, I'm not going to waste my time selling that anymore because when I have 10 exalts, I don't care about 1 chaos.
Yep, exactly. That's one of the problematic things. The other thing is like if they make trade more efficient, I mean, of course, the market would like equilibrate even faster, and everything would be reached like the lower end prices even faster. People always complain about, oh my god, exalts are worth nothing anymore. The more efficient trade gets, the faster we reach that point where exalts are worth a lot of chaos. Like,
Yeah. It's just because you're tapped into everyone else's inventory and in a totally random loot-based game. So I mean, it's just like I talk about my videos and stuff. Like other people have stuff for you, you have stuff for them. If everyone's always connected with a super efficient PoE trade web, then you're basically finding everyone's gear like simultaneously, and it's not really sustainable. Like I'd have a hard time with someone trying to argue towards me if they tried to say that trading wasn't the most efficient way to gear a character. And that's basically what the problem was with
I don't
D3
know.
at the start.
My 3 solo self-found lightning coils.
I mean, the thing is like the problem.
I couldn't get a dying breath.
The problem is when you play PoE as much as you do, like 8 to 10 hours a day or something, then you basically break the system anyways because it's really hard to balance against that balance around that. But just alone the balance gap between someone who trades and someone who doesn't trade or doesn't know trading yet, it's pretty insane. Like I think Chris mentioned that on the State of Exile podcast as well.
Yeah.
And that's something I never really thought about that much before that. But the more I think about it, it's really crazy. Like the power gap, like the difference in power between someone who trades and someone who doesn't trade, let's say around level 65, 68 when he first enters maps, is so huge that it's insane that they even can make the balancing so that it's interesting for both. I don't think that's even possible. Like either the trader is going to face roll or the non-trading person, or like the person who trades little, is going to have a lot of trouble.
And that becomes true. The only way that you can really gauge it is someone who's not trading then has to play the higher end builds that exist. And as you know, you can do some of the jankier stuff, but if you don't trade with the jankier stuff, good luck solo self-found leveling as dual strike. Guess who's going to be dead to the third Piranhas pack they find?
Also, oh, no, you go.
I was just curious if you guys would prefer moving towards a more efficient trade and how you would countered that system, or if you would want a less efficient trade system, and why you would want it that way. Chat can answer the question too, because I'll plagiarize your comments.
I feel like with the trade right now, it's kind of sad going to a third-party website to engage in very, it's not very personal, and you don't really care or get that character interaction. I mean, yes, it's great getting to go to someone else's hideout and stuff, but usually it's very automated, like it's very robotic. I wish there was almost like a zone in game that people went to trade or something like that, where you had to take yourself out of just super map clearing and having your items just selling and being sold, like you have it posted on a market somewhere. I wish you had to take time to engage in it because the items you get will be worth your time. You need to invest about 10 seconds to just put an item up. And if you have the stash tab, it's like 2 seconds. And then you just are constantly making like triple, 10 times the amount of currency as someone who doesn't do that. And it totally screws up the balance of the game. It's out of whack right now, at least.
We have to remember, Ralph, we're talking about slowing trade down, not removing trade. I don't think anyone thinks we should go bind
No.
on pickup
No.
Diablo 3 route.
Yeah, I think it was pretty visible in Diablo 3 from what I saw. I think that their first system was they had this insanely efficient auction house that also worked with real money, but that's obviously something we don't have to fear coming to PoE anytime soon, even an auction house. But let's say we have like maximum efficiency trade, like the auction house was. You type in what you want, you get it, you click it, you have it, and you don't have to wait a second for it. At that point, how D3 balanced against that was they made it so that the likelihood of you dropping a good item was so low that even with the auction house, you only could gear up your character at a moderate rate because you would basically never find anything that is worth anything. So you NPC vendor stuff a lot of times, and then when you find that one item, you sell it and either you can use it for your character, which is very unlikely, or you sell it and on the auction house and buy like a few, like let's say you sell a 20 exalt item and buy I don't know, like 4 exalt items to upgrade your character. That would work pretty much, yeah, exactly like that in PoE. And
that's going to happen in a softcore economy, definitely, because since items aren't being removed, it's just a question of, hey, I have the generic resist movement speed boots. I found another one. Don't need them anymore. Instantly, someone else has them.
Yep.
And then what they did when they changed away from the auction house, they put this whole loot 2.0 system in, which how they called it, where it is the RNG is basically rigged in a way that you will always find items with the stats your character class needs. They can obviously do that because they have classes which wouldn't work in PoE as much. Like if you only drop,
it really wouldn't.
if you only drop like
We wouldn't want that anyway.
yeah, we wouldn't want that, but that's how they solved it. So basically, as soon as they basically removed trade completely from their game, they made it so that you are very likely. They basically increased IIR and IIQ like to a lot, and made it so that you drop items that work for your character even more likely than you would drop other items because you can't trade them anyways. Items that don't work for your character are useless to you unless you want to roll an alt, and that's what they did in D3. And I kind of think like something like that would have to happen as well. For example, if they made trade more efficient in PoE and they don't want us to gear up even faster, I think most people actually like being able to have powerful characters somewhat fast. They don't like want to play at the solo self-found pace. But at some point, I think too fast is still a thing. Because if you make a character, it's geared up instantly, then for like 5 chaos, I mean, and you can do like red maps for 5 chaos gear, that would not be what everyone wants. So they would definitely have to maybe redo the drop rates of some of the items. Maybe even do the item level progression and the mods that can roll on items throughout. I think now it's like level 70, you can basically equip all gear.
Yeah,
75
basically.
for Doriani's catalysts and some of the Atziri loot.
Yeah, some of the Atziri. Let's say at 75 you can equip all gear. But there's item level 85 things that can only roll on item level 85 items. What if you could only equip those at level 85? Then you could actually have a gear progression past level 75. Because right now, if you have the currency, you can finish your character at 75 and level into 100 with this gear.
You go to Dried Lake, and then you look at your currency tab, and you're like, okay, your currency tab because you bought those. And, you see how much currency you have, and you're like, okay, about 10 chaos, I can buy, all the dual res life gear I want, and then just craft the extra resistance on there. And then your character's done in Dried Lake. It basically feels done by Dried Lake anyway.
Yeah, you are right, Crack. 84 is the highest eye level requirement for the stats, but that's not the level requirement. The level requirement is, um, what is it, like 75% of that? I like in terms of, let's say we were to have a more powerful trading system, because it is annoying to trade, and we all, as much as we can understand the power creep that improved trade would go for, we don't want a trade system where it feels like we're punished for playing mediocre things or non-meta. Because the more non-meta something is, yeah, you can get it cheaper, but when people don't want to list something for an alc, you'd be surprised how difficult it can be to get a dying breath, which most people vendor because it's so garbage.
Yeah, I had that problem as well whenever I try to buy like some of the off-meta uniques. People just don't respond to like one alc trade. They have the item listed for one alc or for one fuse, but in the end I still end up paying 2 chaos because the 2 chaos person is the first one that replies if I go down the list. Because nobody wants to sell their perfectly rolled ephemeral edge that they listed for one fuse to me. But my support really needs that item.
And so that's the counter problem when you go to less efficient trades, because then those items would be harder. Like I getting an ambush charge. Who the fuck buys an ambush charge?
Yeah.
And you would be surprised how long I have to spend to get an ambush charge for my animated guardian.
Yep, that's true.
So I think if we have improved trades, we do have to realize there would be an immediate power creep. We know that there's a power creep going on in the game, but one of the, like, there's other solutions. You want to talk about, okay, people have better gear. All right, well, let's increase the permutations. Personally, I think it's pretty dumb that all gear with outside of uniques are basically your life, your energy shield, then triple resist modifications, maybe with a tertiary mod being movement speed or minion levels on gems.
Yep.
That's hilariously boring. That's literally D3 itemization. That is running runs and looking for trifecta rings in Inferno. Nothing different. But if there was more itemization so that the resists were less common, and we had more impactful rolls like damage rolls so that we could adjust the power creep, have the damage rolls being important, and we actually had to choose, holy shit, let's get resist cap. Whereas now I threw on solo self found the last character I did, and for some reason I had 300 lightning resist when I was in
What?
it standing in Merciless. I had 300 lightning resist accidentally, and I was like,
How?
whoops.
Oh, I guess that's Rescat. Time to equip a
I
lightning coil, I guess.
I feel like with that whole, the itemization is so boring right now. I feel like I see what you're saying. Like I agree with you. But I feel like when trade wasn't so efficient, I feel like I didn't see items that way. Because now you just look for the, perfect item, whatever that exactly means for your build, and then it makes the itemization seem so boring. You're not really settling. There's not a lot of trade-offs with different pieces of gear. Like there very well, I mean, there might have been before. You might have had a piece with absolutely no life on it when trade wasn't so efficient, and it just had perfect resists. And then it sort of feels better. It feels like there's a choice. But now, because trade is so efficient, it doesn't feel like there's a choice. You're not going to settle for anything that doesn't
Less
have
than like
life.
life trifecta, yeah.
Exactly. And that's going to cost you maybe 5 chaos or something like that. And or at most. And you can just get good amounts of enough of each. It's kind of stupid. And it's just sort of, and I don't even use my currency. I just use jewelers and fusings, and PoE has like the best currency system in the game. Like no gold,
In
no
other
any.
games.
I mean, on
Of
other
course it
games,
has the
among
best
other.
system in its own game.
Yeah,
Duh.
my bad.
Silly. You done goofed.
But
Technically
it,
I did too, but all right,
it's
moving on.
it's got such a good like crafting system. I mean, of all ARPGs, like when I came to this game and I saw like chaos and regals and all this, and you like, oh, wow, you can build items, and I never use any of them for that. at all. Just
How about
Forsaken Master crafting and
YOLO
trading.
exalting? How many people exalt craft? Even when I was solo self-found, I just never had an opportunity to exalt craft. There was never an item. I was like, well, this already has resistant life. What am I exalting for? Huh.
By the way, Dixon and
Yeah.
Nice make pretty good points. They say master crafting is also a huge factor in making gearing a lot easier.
Yes, in terms of making everything trifecta. I wouldn't be opposed to them.
Also, getting crit on like amulets and stuff like that is easier.
Remember when there was hybrid?
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah. Oh
then you
yeah.
could craft hybrid. That was insane.
Well, I was surprised that they allowed daggers to get the spell damage craft from Katarina,
Yeah.
and then at the same point in time give them the Whirling Blade Fortify. So it's just kind of like, okay, daggers, you don't even have to try now.
That's true. But yeah,
I was like taking a break from PoE way back when. I mean, my computer was total garbage, but I was taking a break when they did Forsaken Masters, and then I came back to the game. I saw Forsaken Masters, and I was like, you can literally exalt every item for one chaos now. And I was like, is this real? I was like, this, like, that's power creep. Are you kidding me? It's a loot-based ARPG. All your power is tied to your gear. And it's like, oh, exalt everything once. Like, what? It's crazy. I'd be happy with a 25% resist exalt. I mean, I wouldn't, scream or anything, but I'd definitely be happy with it.
if the rest of the item is good, I mean, usually if you exalt something, you want like an item that is worth more than an exalt as a result. But it probably
Exactly.
would have been like before for second masters. Yes, I mean now if you exalt 25% resist, you're like, okay, I should have master crafted that. But
Well, and
yeah,
that's kind of the sad thing, because if you realize how few exalts are landable, you have to have so many exalts that you're like, fuck it. Who
Yeah.
cares?
And to have so many exalts, you're finding them all on the ground because, I played for like 3 months every day pretty extremely, and I found like 100 exalts, right? No, you gotta trade for those exalts. So it's that mess, where you don't even really get to use the crafting system unless you're filthy rich, and you don't get to be filthy rich unless you trade.
oh,
And if you're
you can
filthy rich, you
craft.
don't need the crafting system. You're crafting for the purpose
Exactly.
of proving,
Yeah.
you can complete everything.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
One thing I really find cool is that with the addition of jewels, there's actually something that is like reasonably craftable that you can actually like make good items with. Like 3-stat jewels are pretty
Yeah.
craftable, and there's no master
Yeah.
for it as well. So you can actually, and really like jewel crafting. I'll do that a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to doing that on the self found as well. Like
Yeah,
getting
because you
getting
actually do the regal. It's good.
yeah.
It's fun.
I think that's one of the better additions recently to the whole crafting business, at least. And the same is true for I recently like crafted and then like master craft arena like with the mastercraft mod and all that kind of stuff. The +3 bow, like rolling a +2 on it, and then like doing the
Yep.
augment, doing the regal, and then doing the Katarina mod, all that stuff. So you get a +3 bow. That was actually pretty fun to do as well. I kind of like that going through that process. I mean, it's with master crafting, of course, it's way easier, and crafting in this game is still just RNG gated energy, RNG based, of course. So it's not like you're actually like making this master plan how to craft this item. So you just like click until it shows up what you want, but you still have to know like, okay, do I augment this now or do I just regal and then exalt or whatever? So you still have to have a good plan. I think there's still instances in the game where crafting is rewarded and where crafting is
Yes.
pretty good, but it's just gotten a bit less. But on the
Well,
other hand, what we
my
got,
favorite crafting system is ruined, and
and that was
it's this. They were like, "All right, we have Vaal orbs." I'm like, "These are the coolest things ever."
yeah,
And then
Valves are
they're like,
cool.
"All right, we have master mods that you can't put on a corrupted item, and you can change the resists at any point in time that you craft on it."
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, very hard to Val items now, and the Val implicits are not looking nearly as strong as any of the things I can just craft on, with the exception of like +1 frenzy or double curse
Yeah,
or
Yeah.
+1 curse amulet.
yeah, a
Then
few,
we
yeah.
have enchants on boots, gloves, and helms. Not many Val orb corrupts can land that, let alone the fact that they brick your items. So the
Yeah.
small amount of power creep that you risked, you can now get non-risk 100 times better power creep. And it's like, what?
Yeah, it's really sad when they add stuff and it seems to just make old stuff that's really awesome obsolete. And No, yeah, you make a good point. Like, oh, Vaal orbs are really fun. You just Vaal it for whatever reason to try and get a good implicit. No, let's just make these enchants to just give you implicits, and the glove thing can't be reflected. And yeah, the glove I don't even really like the enchants. And again, because I have my beef with trade. Like, I don't like to spend my time playing the game trading. It just doesn't really make sense to me. But at the same time, it's like how you progress your character reliably to compete with the content that the game throws at you. And helm enchants. It I wish you could like get an extra helm enchant for every chest that you open at the end of a labyrinth run because it's just so crazy trying to get one that's actually useful.
But they are so good that they have to be kind of gated behind RNG. If everyone
Yeah.
could easily get their specific helm enchant, there are some that are just insane for damage. For example, the one that increases the explosion radius of Firestorm, that like skyrockets your AoE overlap of Firestorm, and just a single target damage goes through the roof just with one enchant. That's just one example of a skill that isn't even particularly like powerful. Extra
Can
extra
confirm
spark projectiles, anyone?
the temp chains quality, or the
Oh
20% more
man.
effectiveness of temp chains,
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, I heard that would be pretty good.
Turns out trivializes the game.
Yeah, it does. It does. All right. What do you think about moving away from trading to some other topic? I think we talked about trading a lot. And
But trading,
trading. Yeah. Just.
trading.
I mean, the good thing
One
is you don't have to trade, right? That's,
one
right.
last Can I say
All right,
one
one
last
last
thing?
thing.
Yeah,
Have
yep,
fun,
yep.
Ralph.
Because
You're the
this is
guest.
this is less about trade, this is more just other stuff. How do you feel that GGG has almost restricted themselves to sticking with PoE trade with the premium stash tab integration?
I'm gonna get yelled at for my comments, so have fun with this one. It's Yoji.
Yep. No, do you go ahead? I want to see you get yelled at.
Fucking retarded.
I knew something like that was coming.
I want to point out that, unless there's some weird backhand shady deal, that they are making money from somebody else's work. Because you cannot tell me that the premium stash tab sale increase that happened would be equivalent if PoE trade didn't exist. They are making money from someone else's work that they didn't do and which everybody wants them to do. Fuck off. That is just dumb. And if there is a shady background deal, that's even worse.
Yeah, I can see that argument, but the thing I think is actually like just going the road they've been going further. Like previously, they always relied on PoE trade since that thing existed. They'd be like, okay, guess we don't need an in-game trade system anymore, and then they just be like, and now that they're putting in an in-game trade system, and this is only like one of 3 updates that they promised us, as far as I know. So this, who knows what might be coming next?
Yeah, but what
Maybe
if
they
the
will
future
integrate it.
update trivializes the need of the premium stash tab in its current form, and then you just had a whole bunch of people spend money who would have still put money in and then would have
Yep.
enjoyed an MTX, and you're misleading a consumer. We don't know. And are they going to make premium stash tabs even more powerful?
Yeah, that's the part I hate is like you almost restrict what you can do or you risk just looking like really bad. Because if they screw up, if they try to move away from PoE trade, oh, can you imagine the rage? Can you imagine the rage? I would be mad. Are you kidding me? Like,
If they moved away from PoE trade, but that doesn't mean like that they move away from premium stash tabs. Though not right now they're intertwined. But what they could do is like if they let's say they put an in-game search tool that is similar to PoE trade that searches other people's premium stash tabs. Then premium stash tab buyers would still be like, yep, definitely worth the investment. I can use the new and the old trade system now with just my one premium stash tab that I bought. GG, well played. But the in-game trading would still work. Though that would be a solution that would not like scam all the premium stash tab buyers while still working just through in-game. The thing is, they don't really have to do that right now, and I'm really curious what other trade improvements they're kind of wanting to do. Do you have any predictions of what you think they might be doing?
You're Mr. Like, oh, let's stop talking about trade. What's your guys' prediction on what they're gonna do?
Maybe trade is a good topic still.
Fine. Apparently, HCNT podcast, episode 3, Path of Exile, trade bitching.
Yes.
All right, Ralph, what's your trade improvement predictions?
What do I guess they're gonna do?
Yep. And we're in
Oh,
predictive mode.
Yeah, we're in predictive mode now, so desync away.
I don't know. I mean, break the game, automatic buyouts when you're offline. If they did that, that'll pretty
They
much
made a
be the.
comment about that, being able to trade in forums with a phone app or something.
Oh, that I
That was a comment from Chris Wilson when we had the 2.0 beta while he was talking to Ziggy D, that they were in the process of testing a forum trade tool that you could use on the phone. And I was
Damn
like,
it.
that's the most broken, abusable thing you could ever
yeah.
think of. And you're against the auction house and you think that's a good idea?
Flipping items while watching Netflix, that seems pretty good.
Buy.
It seems like people
Swipe left to buy, swipe right to pass.
people people love gearing their characters so much. They love being able to accelerate their power so much that I feel like there's this sort of, you kind of get this like blocked out vision. You can't realize that you're not actually playing a game anymore. You're just like scrolling through a list of people's items, and it's just kind of weird. But people just want to, they want strong characters. They want to finish their build. They want to have that power, and it's an ARPG. You want to feel like a god, and I get that.
Well, to
But
be
you're not.
fair, that's not a company's fault. That's actually the player base. Because
Yes.
people want their build that can accomplish content already to be stronger, and they literally break all the challenge. Everyone gets excited when their build is buffed, and it's like, congratulations, you can trivialize the content now. There's no point of the content.
Yeah, exactly.
Woo!
I
So,
mean, you gotta hope that the companies know that though, and sort of design around that, and don't make the trade too efficient, and don't integrate it to a third-party website
spoiler alert, they don't.
By the way, about the by the way about the whole like making content less phase roll. I watched this AMA with Mathel yesterday, and I actually found Mathel making a pretty good comment that he said that he would probably enjoy the game going a little bit slower, although he's like one of the guys who always pushes for the fast clear and stuff like that.
Mathel wanting things slower?
But he said, yeah,
What?
he said he
What?
still, or at least that he looks like nostalgically at the slower pace stuff
Yeah,
sometimes, and that he kind of he actually said that he kind of like
He
finds
made good comments.
the game is going a bit too fast. But what he said was that people would get so pissed off if you just slowed the game down now. Because they would be because you can't do that anymore. But I think maybe what could work is they would just like slow it down like in baby steps, because they didn't accelerate the game like just like today it's like cleave 500 DPS mapping, and now it's like 500k DPS. That was like a progression going on. Maybe if they like, slowly like turned it down a little bit more and like moved it a little bit down, but not like insanely fast.
As none of us did trade predictions, as the Yoji asked,
Yeah.
and we tangented completely. I do agree. It's one of those things. Mathel's completely correct, and he's a person who will play the fastest that he can with the tools available. So it's honestly not that surprising that he wants the game slower, and he will push it to its limits.
Yep.
No shit. But when you're pushing to the limits something where everything dies instantly, it's like, congratulations,
Yeah.
here's your medal of what everyone can do.
Yeah, people wonder why Chaos is broken. It's like, well, they screwed up with the damage scaling, and then everything is getting one shot, and then there's no
Fire
reflect.
doesn't stack. What if poison stacked? I don't see a problem at all.
Like
Then
people are curious,
the
like,
easiest
oh,
build to
Chaos.
convert to poison? Fire.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous because the whole downside of Chaos is like, oh, it just is harder to scale, and it's harder to obtain. But it's very easy to scale. It's ridiculous.
In terms of slowing down the game, though, realistically, the best way, which I hate that it would be the best way from marketing and player retention, would be to increase enemy health. But it would have to be done extremely methodical so players can still feel that they have their damage, and they would have to really massage that curve so that players wouldn't see a spike.
Yep.
And it could be done. However, we would be requesting that from the people who made Act 4, which clearly states that they don't know that.
Yeah, Act 4 is definitely
The
very
difficulty
spiky.
curve going into Act 4, and I'm not saying Act 4 is inherently hard, but compared to 3, you're fucked.
That's definitely true.
It's not going to happen. So is it a realistic expectation for that solution to be the best way for GGG to fix it? And I agree. If they do a patch, hey, everything's nerfed. Guess what? We're going to have the league that nobody plays.
Yep, that's true. But yeah, it's really hard to come back from that. That's what kind of like the point I basically wanted to make. That's really, really difficult to steer the game into being less
how do you fix
efficient,
the melee
less
meta
fast.
when the casters can one-shot everything?
Yeah, that's another good point.
But I mean, it's not like the game
Flicker is a slow build.
It's not like the game is just destined to get faster and faster and faster until no one wants to play it anymore because there's a game out there that does it better and it's D3. You know, it's not just going to get super arcadey.
It is a bad thing though, because it's like when the PlayStation tries to be a PC. Everyone who has a PC is like, that's cute. You're just racing to your death. And if Path of Exile races to be D3,
D3 already exists, yeah.
But
I don't think it is as much. They definitely know some of the limits. Like they definitely know some things that they wouldn't do. For example, like the auction house.
Auction house, which I'm glad they're stubborn on that one.
Yeah, I'm very happy as well that they apparently don't have any intention of ever changing that opinion. So that's pretty good. And I think they still say that, right? Because like whenever the topic of balancing comes up, they will say that they like the game to be difficult. They want people to have really hard challenges in the game. And I think this patch might actually be is that they just like didn't want to do what they did with Act 4, where they would just be like ambulances and 20% increased physical damage or like damage on monsters, and suddenly defenses felt a bit awkward for a patch. Maybe they kind of want to reiterate.
This actually brings us to something where Chris said that I had a bit of an issue with his logic. And, you know, it's different between what the logic is when they're actually doing stuff and what they presented their logic as for a PR answer. In the podcast State of Exile, Chris said that we talked about it earlier, the difference between power level when you trade and you don't trade. Right?
Yep.
So how do you balance for both of those? Then he also stated that they have low retention on new players, and it is a free-to-play game, which is a huge factor. And then he said a lot of people don't trade. Then he also said they don't allow trade on low-level characters. And it's like, maybe your difficult game where trade matters and you don't let low players trade to interact with the community, because what's your interaction with other players realistically other than trade? Maybe there's a correlation. Now, I'm fully aware of how the stats work and there's many other things there, but I'm just kind of like, you're going to say these three things right after each other and no light bulb. None.
Yeah.
Just
it's a little weird.
Me that info, and I'm like,
I don't know.
I'm seeing something here.
I think the early and new play experience has a lot more huge problems than the trading not existing, and I think it's also like to combat bots and stuff. So I can see the reason for that.
I understand the bot thing, and I'm fully understanding. But you have to realize it's like when new players, it's like it's sluggish.
Yeah, it is. I think that is the main problem.
When you roll a new character, you want that Elrion ring, you want that movement speed boots, and you want a life sprig so that it feels comfortable so that you can go through packs, because we all know the mana potion when you're on a new character, you kill one pack and you're like, oh, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
And a new player doesn't have the tool to beat that inherently, and we can't give it to them.
Also, a new player will like try to kill every freaking mob on Twilight Strand. That's how players play. I played with a lot of people. I tried to get people into PoE, and they will kill. They will go. I have Glacial Hammer. I'm a Templar. I will now try to kill AOE down these packs. Oh wait, I only have a single target skill, and that's the point where a lot of people already quit from. Like that, I tried to, or that I had to really talk them through. Like, no, don't skip the packs. Come to Hillock. I invite you in the party, and I will show you around the game a little bit. But
I opened an ambush
it's
chest
just not good
on the Twilight Strand.
I mean, that's in a new league, though, right?
Right. So the ambush chest on the Twilight Strand, because of the 2-week event. Oh my god, finishing that chest with just heavy strike.
Yeah.
Potion, hide in the corner. All right, wait, go. I'm just like,
I think
this is bullshit.
I think that's like where they could already start, like trying to make the first skill that you get a little bit more, like feel a little bit better. Like Fireball is probably one
If
of the
the
better ones you
starting
get.
item was 3-linked, ooh, and then
Ooh.
halfway through the Twilight Strand, there was a quest person that gave you a support gem to immediately explain in supports, because we've all had the friend that we watch play their Path of Exile count, and you're like, you're level 40. Why aren't your skills supported with anything?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the
that's
new
definitely
player
a thing.
experience is, people always talk about how they want to make the game really approachable for new players. We want more people to play Path, whatever, whatever. It's all great. There's just so much information. Like we always forget it because we know the game, but whenever I try to get my brother to play, I can see it. The passive skill tree, the gems, the gear, this like it's so much to know. It's and there's no amount of tutorial I feel. Well, I mean, yes, you could make a super large, crazy tutorial,
And there's a
but
tutorial in Twilight Strand. You don't get that if you have played for a while.
Yes.
You only get it if you install
yep,
PoE anew, and then you get like an arrow, like pick up this wand and use this skill gem and put it in there. They're like little pop-ups. But they only explain like the very basics. That they basically explain the stuff that doesn't really need explaining, while not explaining the
yeah,
stuff that kind of could use explaining, like support gems, maybe the passive tree. Like just give them like a few pointers. I don't think it would even be that bad if they'd be like, okay, yeah, try to focus on getting like stats like life and damage over intelligence and strength first, because I think I've seen a lot of people who make their first passive logo like int, and you're like, no, yeah, you're smart now, but I mean your character, not you. That's not a good
Are,
idea.
are all the people who are like, all right, I'm using ethereal knives.
Knives.
This weapon has
a dagger.
percent physical.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly,
I mean
this
that's
improves ethereal knives.
yeah, that's so unintuitive because it doesn't say like local or with this weapon or something like that. So there could be like they could work on descriptions as well. The physical damage problem, that's actually huge. I see that a lot where people are like, oh yeah,
Or
physical
thinking
damage.
that the ethereal
Okay.
knives scales with their weapon damage.
That's an
That,
attack.
that that's a really, really common one. And I agree. Like, for some reason, when you make a comment that's like, you can make Path of Exile more accessible for new players, and people are like,
Yes.
oh, you're just making the game easier and new friends. It's like, no, we're talking about explaining the fucking game.
Also, like even if we made I don't know Act One normal a bit more easy, like no veteran player would be like, oh no, Act One normal is easier. That changes everything.
Yeah, but remember when Malachi was harder?
Yeah.
And he's been nerfed 3 times. And then there was all the comments that were like, oh, people were like, hey, Malachi needs to be easier. And people were like, no, because then the game's not hard. It's like, it's
It's hard at the
normal
wrong points.
difficulty.
Yeah.
If you are taking your trophy that I can beat normal Path of Exile, fuck yourselves. You retarded ingrain. That's not an accomplishment.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think normal should be like the training wheels difficulty, and then after that the game can get like progressively harder.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Like, I think for an ARPG, you can bumblefuck your way through normal. Cruel makes you have to pay attention to stats, and merciless the ass kicking starts. That's the general style.
Yeah, it's called merciless. I mean, it should be merciless, right? Like you make a mistake, you die. That's kind of like how it's supposed to be.
I remember when I used to farm zones before I moved through the difficulty. It's so easy now. What are you guys talking about? OMG.
I mean, I don't really feel like farming zones while leveling is something I would necessarily desire. I think a smooth leveling
Yeah.
experience is a cool thing. Farming zones for gear is another thing, but farming zones for levels, I think if you like always like if you kill like a reasonable amount of packs, like the most packs you need, and you kind of like stay somewhat on level, that's all right. I mean, of course you have to like consider racing because people being under leveled and only killing the bare minimum of mobs is like something that the game should also be kind of balanced around, so it allows for racing. If GGG still want racing to be in the game.
Racing also has a natural thing to balance itself, because a racer will go at a speed at which they can push their stats.
Yeah.
So if the game's easier, they'll push like at the start, then they'll push a little bit harder. And if the game was harder, then like the racers will tune themselves. Obviously, racing then more is like, what are the resist caps? How are the mobs tuned related to that?
But that's
Cool,
obviously
always.
a cap to that. For example, if you can push so far that you're 10 levels under leveled, That's
No, okay.
that would be problematic because you would have then have to get like a really awkward progression going, because if you're 10 levels under leveled, you don't get experience from the mobs anymore, right? So yeah, you would have to like kind of like go back, and I don't think that would be enjoyable for racers to like have this weird progression of, okay, I'm like Act 4 merciless now, time to go back to, I don't know, cruel ledge and level
Well,
a little bit.
side
That
zones
kind of
could
wouldn't make
actually
sense.
solve that problem, like higher density side zones that you
Act
normally would go.
4 has no side zones. Except for
It
Dried Lake, if you
it
consider that.
has shitty zones.
It's not a side zone, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no Dried Lake's not a side zone. You kind of have to go there.
It
Doesn't that
actually does
strike
not. It actually does not have side zones. Yeah,
Isn't that-
I
isn't
never
that
actually
weird?
thought about that. That's a bit
That
weird.
is weird.
It's just a totally linear act. Oh, but I get to choose between Calm and Duresso. Yay!
That's a choice. And then after those two separate paths,
You can choose
there's
which
a
boss
third
to do
path that opens up.
first before Malachi. There are 3
Act
bosses you can.
4 just seems very, very weird compared to the rest of the game. I don't know.
It's quite different, yeah.
It really is Dried Lake. And that's the thing. I mean, we talk about
Act 4
not
is Dried Lake.
You know, we
Why
don't
does
like.
Dried Lake have that kind of mob density?
Why is it gray? I'm trying to get players to come play this game. All I'm doing is sitting in a gray circle all the time. Make it
Killing
like,
black mobs.
make it like bright
I'm
pink.
colorblind. I have no complaints to the Gray Lake.
Hey, as far as PT is concerned, it could be Pink Lake. It's not a problem.
I wouldn't mind Pink Lake.
Yeah.
All right.
I vote
cool.
Pink Lake.
But it's like, we talk about, oh, I don't know how I feel about stopping in the middle of acts, and farming different zones. But it's basically you don't stop ever, and then you stop at one place, Dried Lake. It's just so weird. I don't know. It's like so linear, and it's not really choice oriented at all.
Yeah. What I find really interesting about Dried Lake is how the quality of zones is so different, like how they're designed and how they feel. There's Dried Lake, which kind of like looks a little bit. I think it actually looks pretty cool when you first come in. I think Aqueducts, the first zone is really nice, really nice looking. I like the whole like flow of it, and all that. And then you go towards Dried Lake, which is a bit gray. Mines is like another cave zone that we have like tons of before. That's kind of like a little bit dull as well. Same for Crystal Veins. And then you go to the arena, which I think like the pit and the arena is an awesome zone. Looks awesome. The wrestle boss fight is one of my favorites. Although he's quite punishing, I think he's still like really well designed overall. Like
Well,
people
there's
are
a
always,
lot of his mechanics that aren't inherently obvious, and
Yeah,
even when
that
you
is
did your
definitely
testing
true.
in your video, there was an inaccuracy that
Yeah.
it's that non-intuitive.
yeah,
Spawning swords at your feet.
but just like from how the fight feels, I think it feels really well paced. Like this guy who's always in your face, like striking you with the sword. He's really fast. His attacks look awesome. The crowd is reacting to what's happening in the fight as well. That's kind of like really cool. I think they stepped up the game so much in the presentation of that whole zone, and then you go to Calm's area, it's like red and black.
But I like my Wallace and Gromit claymation monstrosity.
But yeah, it's just not changing. The whole zone is also not changing. The monsters are not changing either. Like,
Guys, we need an original zone. Lava. All right.
never has ever
We need a boss.
anything like this been
Lava
done before.
boss with an axe. Genius. Give this man a medal. Call it a day.
Yeah, and then from there, I think the whole like harvest and all that stuff is just too much of the same. It all looks kind of the same. I like the boss, the piety boss, and I like the 3 bosses are kind of meh.
Act 4 is schizophrenic, and I don't think many people will argue that. You can give the like dream sequence shenanigans, but ultimately, if they would have just had Duresso or would have just had Calm streamlined it, and it was all about that, I think, if the entire thing was a gladiator arena, that would have been a lot of fun for Act 4. Instead,
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah, the whole nightmare thing, like, oh, Malachi's unleashing nightmare so we can go anywhere we want to. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cop-outy. I don't know if they're gonna do that right. And it's like, oh, you can fight Calm and Duresso and all these awesome, names that and stuff like that. But it's a little bit strange when you go from like Act 1, which is very coastal, to a forest, to, like a city and like a battlefront type area with Sarn, and then Act 4 is just like so random. It's like, what's Act 5 gonna be? Like, what?
We have in chat. We have snow, desert, or underwater is gonna be Act 5. That's the
No.
chat suggestions.
I don't
don't
see
think it's underwater. I can
because
definitely
that
see.
would require too much graphics.
Yeah, I could see snow, but snow already likes the game as well. But maybe if they optimize it a little bit better, I think I definitely can see snow being a thing. And desert is very Diablo, like stereotypical Diablo cliche zone.
The outside of Act 3 is kind of desert, though.
Yeah, it's a little bit like
Yeah,
some of
kind
the
of.
parts.
It's kind of exhausting being in a desert, though. I don't know. I mean, I guess it is anywhere, any terrain. But I don't know. I didn't really feel like Act 3 was too fatiguing with, like, because there was docks and you could go to the catacombs or you could, but then again, I don't know. It's just gray, dried lake. Gray.
Valseo
Gray.
is certain that it's going to be space.
Yeah, I'm also pretty certain now. I think he convinced me with his arguments. It's gonna be. He wrote space.
It's gonna be space.
That's the part
Act
that
5
convinced me.
cave.
Yeah, cave.
Oh, Ralph, you haven't played Dark Souls, right?
I haven't. I've only watched it, but it looks okay, but I've been kind of I stray away from, the whole the third person combat and the slicing just feels so automated sometimes. I mean, I guess I'm playing PoE where literally everything is the same animation every single time, but still, I don't know. I only watch it really.
I really like paying attention to the shadow of the cyclone animation because they have the graphics to kind of cluster it a little bit. But the actual cyclone animation is pretty funny. Just
Yeah.
T-pose spinning.
What I also like is you have the T-pose spinning, which is like kind of the lariat from Zangief in Street Fighter. If anyone knows that it looks exactly like that. And you get what's really cool is that you leave like little worlds behind. If you cyclone really fast, the animation kind of like drags out, and you leave like the worlds like the denouement like stacked upon each other, like drawing out a little bit, and it actually looks pretty cool. They didn't really realize that until I made like move speed cyclone action.
I watched again Guda's really slow his really slow cyclone build. That always gives me a chuckle. Have you seen that? It's Yoji.
Yeah, I've seen that. I mean that's pretty cool as well.
Cyclone's too broken. They gotta nerf it again.
Yeah, they gotta nerf it again. It's just too fast. I don't really get why they ever nerfed Cyclone. By the way, I just didn't get it. It was too good for it was better than all the melee skills, but it was still worse than all I don't know.
Yeah.
And
How do you
then
guys
they
feel
made
about
Earthquake.
Yeah, then
Yep,
they made Earthquake, and they're like, well, don't use Cyclone anymore, use Earthquake. Maybe they don't want more than one melee skill to be, like, good at the same time. Maybe that would be too much choice for the melee players. I don't know how smart the average melee player is, so I don't have any stats on that.
Well, to be fair, they chose melee.
Yeah.
Not
so,
a good start.
How can you call Earthquake melee? That's a spell.
It uses a melee weapon.
Yep.
Like Spectral Throw is melee.
Yep.
No, it's not.
Oh wait, it's not. No, it's a projectile. But it uses a melee weapon, so it's basically melee. Doesn't even have a melee tag, it probably has.
How have you guys enjoyed the introduction of the 4-second buffs with the on-kill or the kill recently that Ascendancy's brought? My concern is that it pushes to the ridiculously fast clear speed, because when you don't have ridiculously fast clear speed, you can't maintain the 4-second buffs. When you can maintain the 4-second buffs, it's laughable.
Yeah, I don't like those. I just don't like that kind of play style. I don't like that kind of gameplay that it promotes. I like the slow, meaningful fights. Like, I would love to fight a rogue exile that takes longer than 2 seconds. And
Warbands.
yeah, and people complain about how tanky they are or whatever, but I maybe with more damage tuning or something like that. But then if it's all about these long fights, then Leech is too OP. But when when you're doing these long boss fights, those recently effects have no place. They do nothing. But if you're just clearing through Dried Lake, the recently effects are amazing. The Elemental Conflux, and even that Hierophant one that gives you the damage for the 4% damage per enemy you or your totem has killed recently, that actually is crazy when you're clearing fast. It's only 4% damage, but it adds up extremely fast because we killed that fast.
No, I don't know. I actually enjoy that. I like a buff that rewards you for trying to push clearing faster. I think the balancing is not quite there, But it's the same for getting like 10% chance to gain a frenzy charge on kill, for example. Unless you have like insane frenzy charge duration, that's not enough to maintain frenzy charges for the most part, unless you're clearing like at insane levels. But or you like really try to push. And I really like the idea of having to take more risks, like playing faster than you normally would feel comfortable to. Considering, for example, the damage mods in the map that you're having right now, and being rewarded for that by a constant uptime of a buff. Well, if you clear slower, you still get something out of it. You still get the buff for if you kill like the first 4 enemies of a pack or something when you're clearing slower, and then for the second half of the pack, you still you have the buff, and you can kill, for example, Union of Souls like reasonably fast still because you got a buff from killing the first few, and now the tanky ones get are able to clear better basically. But yeah, I kind of like that idea of being rewarded for trying to push the limits of the clear speed that your build can do.
Well, I think a good example of that is Vaal Reeve. I think a bad example of that is just damage because you killed something recently.
Yeah.
It's a bit. Some of them are a bit uncreative. Others are actually pretty cool. I think that for example, the Conflux one, although maybe a bit strong, I think I like that because people try to make builds around it. But whoever does realize that, hey, if I don't proc it, like if I get a bad streak of RNG or if my build is not clearing really fast, I can't really rely on it. But I made a build that relies on having it up all the time, and now they're like, okay, so if I want to clear tier 12, tier 13 maps with it, where mobs get more tanky and I actually have to pay attention of the damage they put back onto me, I have to either get really good gear or actually play lower maps and can't do higher maps anymore. So there's actually a trade-off if you want to rely on them.
An elemental conflux is definitely one because it's actually giving you a mechanical difference.
Yeah.
But it's like the Hierophant one or some of the other ones, and it's just hey,
kind of
for 40% damage, yay!
like
How
the
do you-
damage on block one that's available to the gladiator, and it's always like,
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
How rare is the writhing jar? You know, the worm flask where you shoot out the worms and you can kill them or whatever. Or you can
I
get.
found one solo self found, but I don't know how much they're selling for,
don't
and
think-
that's completely meaningless data.
I don't think there are many expensive. It costs many chaos, like maybe a chaos or two or something like that. I don't think they're very expensive at all.
Because I think that item's pretty cool with the on-kill effects and stuff like that. I mean, I know not all the recently effects are on kill or on hit or something like that, but it seems like a lot of them are. And I don't know. I don't, and maybe this is just like a min-max type thing, but I mean, I typically when I'm gearing a character or getting stats, I would like to be able to use it against those really meaningful boss fights like at Ciri. And you can't really, with the recently effects, most of the time you're not getting that. And it's just it just feels weird. It's like, oh, my character is only powerful. Well, I guess it kind of works thematically. It's like you're slaying a bunch of enemies and then you get all excited or whatever. But
I kill things! Power!
yeah.
I guess
Well, the
that's-
writhing jar's a good unique. I think
Yeah.
it's a really
Yeah.
well designed one.
Yeah,
I like
I
when
think
people
it's really
crash
good
their
as well.
hideouts. I like that. I like those videos.
Also, worms in a bottle. I mean, that's pretty cool in general. Like thematically, that thing is pretty cool as well. I think. But yeah,
But it's not tequila.
what? No. Oh, damn it. Okay, if it's not tequila, then I hated the unique. I thought that was the whole deal. But one thing one could combat that the whole on-kill effects and clear speed meta being a thing is if you just get more meaningful, worth farming bosses out there that have mechanics that don't work well. Like basically, and Zeri is really trying that. I think that's maybe one reason why it's so successful. Because if you're like an AOE clear speed chain build that blasts the whole screen in one shot, you're gonna die at the split phase. Because that's what this is designed for. There's one mirror at Zeri that will kill you. Unless you're Chaos, which is
Well,
in
all right.
the game, but
So as much as that's a fun thing, you have to remember the same reason why traps are a weird thing to have in an ARPG. When you start to compensate for the online feature, those little differences start making it from an intense fight to okay, he's doing the thing. Wait a second. And
Yeah.
it's
I mean-
very hard to make that line feel skill-based and not fuck your latency.
that's definitely true. But for example, there's also a Waterways boss, the Golem, that puts on thorns every now and then, where you get like the stasis phase where you can't damage him, but he reflects a ton. That actually feels pretty skill-based, because you can't just spam away at him and like be like, okay, boss, DPS, 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 boss down. But it's just like, okay, do a little bit of DPS, and then okay, he stays his way, okay, see how much damage I take back.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the most engaging fights a map has to
And
offer.
they did a little bit of that in the higher, like the new red tiers, because like
Yeah.
the Vaal in the Wasteland has the heal, which
Mm-hmm.
is, a nice touch. You have there's the
Excavation, the
lower
double
tier
boss.
one shock, yeah, the excavation, which can just fuck itself. Um,
That's a good well-designed boss fight, though. I think that's one of the better ones.
I kind of like
Yeah.
the P-Link. I like the P-Link on that fight. I hated P-Link when it was on Magic Mobs, but in that fight, it feels better.
Yeah, I think in that fight it feels like it's a boss fight. When you go in, you already decided you want to deal with that crap. While
Yep.
P-Link was like it just randomly occurs. In that fight,
Exactly.
you choose to deal with it, and it's potentially very rewarding as well. It's not like a random blue pack will give you some experience, and if you skip it, well, then I guess you don't
well,
get it.
I never like when you have a fight like Museum Boss, where it's like you stomp it or it stomps you.
Oh yeah, museum bosses is like
Yeah,
that.
it feels just more like a DPS thing, honestly. You just blow it up before it blows you up.
Yeah, or
Exactly.
can you off screen it so they can't jump you? Because
Yeah.
if they get onto you with their like haste, titty bitch shooting and the what's it called, the Reaver
The
who does
flicker.
insane damage, and
Yeah, the
the
flicker
Flicker
Reave.
Reaver, he just goes like pop 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 dead. He can stun lock you as well pretty hard. Yeah, that fight feels like you can just like nuke it or they will give you a lot of trouble. For example, arena boss you can actually like mechanically play around a little bit and
Yes.
like
Well,
deal with
So
properly.
the arena boss, my only slight complaint with it is I wish there was an animation on the ground before the swords appeared, because the swords will tick immediately.
The arena is the trio before the reso.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of
The reso, yeah, the reso. I think we talked about that last podcast. That's
But yeah, those swords are dumb.
they,
Really.
they,
Yeah.
they should just have like a wind up that you can actually dodge them on reaction. That would be cool.
yeah, the arena. For some reason, I was thinking of Colosseum. Fucking
Colosseum, yeah.
synonyms. Fucking synonyms. Bullshit.
I think Colosseum was actually it's the only thing that I think is wrong with that boss is the swords being instant and stackable. Even if
You
they
have no
if,
fizz defense. Enjoy.
I mean, I think in a tier 15 map, that's an alright thing to have. If you go into a boss room in a tier 15 map, you basically are like, okay, this will probably kill me. But if you go into like Act 4 cruel boss fight, you don't be like, oh, I got one shot. What happened? Spinny swords, huh?
I always enjoy learning I was on the kinetic blast wander, walking around the edge of the map. You do that once.
Oh yeah, I actually saw that. That was when like 2.0 was pretty fresh still, like one of your first.
You do that once.
Yep. But yeah, overall, I think there are some really well done like boss fights in general. For example, the new Mines boss, and they also renamed Mines into something annoying. It's the stone golem that uses this,
Abandoned caverns.
yeah.
Yep.
I mean, before the map at least used to be mine. Now it's someone else's. I don't know. There used to be a stone golem that uses earthquake, which I think is pretty cool because earthquake is, as an enemy skill, it does a lot of damage when he does that, especially for that tier.
And it
But
can
it's-
cause the player mistake. Like you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. As an
It's
enemy skill.
it's outplayable. It's very outplayable, and I like that a lot.
Yeah. Whenever there's something that you can punish or think about, I do like enemies having some kind of immune phases because of, and just in any game where there's ARPGs, going to Dark Souls, the Pontiff fight, if you're familiar with it, he can be stunned during an animation. But if you have the damage while he's doing his thing, you can just kill him, and it's like, well, nice job, phase two.
Yeah, that's not very good. Hey, yesterday I saw a video where someone one-shots him. He like buffs himself for like half a minute and just goes in like, boosh, dead. That was pretty hilarious.
And so I like when there's a phase transition to, make a build that has high DPS something to think about or worry about. And the Adzeria fight is an encounter that has that, albeit not the best example.
Yeah.
Duresso, like they need a period of time where they're immune to damage and attacking you, and that's not a common thing in Path of Exile because of the leech tank mechanic that they've kind of inherently designed in.
Yeah, it would be a huge problem for a
Yeah.
lot of builds, and also
One of-
also for like some things like summoners, for example. If the phase goes too long, the mobs, because summons kind of you can avoid some of the AoE damage by like convocating and stuff because it has such a long cooldown though.
Minions now have a massive amount of area of effect damage suppression.
Yeah,
that was introduced in 2.0 to
Yep.
combat that. Like they used to kill an obelisk pack instantly; they're all dead.
I
So
mean, yeah,
dumb.
it used to be really ridiculous. But yeah, it's still pretty crazy. You always have like summoners are one of these special builds, kind of like leech tanking, leech tanks as well. Where like you have this in the game, so you kind of have to make sure they also can get through the game. And I've not played the classic summoner in the lab yet because they get like insane damage reduction from traps and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But it's yeah, it still kind of feels kind of weird. Like if I lose like as a specter summoner, if I lose like
The specters.
if I lose like one or two specters in a lab run, that's the lab run.
It feels so bad. I, I
That's why
can't
you
play
use
summoners
zombies.
because I love the specters, but every time when one of them dies, I just rage. It's so not satisfying. I haven't played a summoner since they introduced Act 4, and that's when I think was that before they like buffed their damage reduction
Act 4,
Or
they
was it
Four
after?
would have been when they yeah,
when they just
2.0 is
introduced
when
it.
they introduced the fortified gem.
Yep.
Then they also introduced the damage suppression of area of effect.
Yeah, I think it
They
was a
both
bit
came at
later.
the same time.
It wasn't. I think it wasn't in the beta yet, and I don't think it was 2.0 yet. But it came pretty fast because what's her name? Like the corrupted piety, she just one shots all your minions. If they don't have the damage reduction, she just like turns around, everything's dead. That's the summoner for you. Good job.
Yeah.
And as a summoner, you actually have to
true.
do a Merciless Act 4 because you want those Revenants. You actually have to do Calm and Deresso. And
Use
if you
animate
want
weapon.
if you want the good waypoint, and in Harvest you also have to do Piety. Yeah, you can use animate weapon to like cheese the fight, I guess, or like even like switch to SRS for like a while. But people really don't like not playing the build they want to play.
Exactly, and I hate SRS just because it ruined animate weapon because it'll never get balanced because of SRS existing, and there's never a problem with summoners because it's always like, oh, minions are fine. Look at SRS. Shut up.
Yeah, SRS is doesn't really feel like I'm playing SRS now for the first time in like forever, and it's
Enjoying those Parandus chests.
SRS works really fine against Parandus. It's insane. Like once you link melee splash and the newly buffed
Yeah.
melee splash, it's just like they phase roll all the things. You just like stand there and cast things, but it feels more like a cast. It feels more like playing Spark. You stand there like slightly off screening the mobs, and like things just automatically target and die and get targeted and die. While Summoner actually has like a Spectre, and Zombie Summoner actually has like micromanagement of you pull your enemies out of your minions out of enemy AOE like barriers, and you actually like try to control them properly, and you hide behind your zombie wall and all that stuff. Well, with SRS, it's just like spam, 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 spam. Everything's dead. Next.
How do you guys feel about that new offering skill that gives them a bit of fizz as chaos, I believe?
Chaos, yay!
And it gives, yeah, exactly, more chaos. And it gives, I believe it gives energy shield. And it's instant. So it's almost like a flask effect, which seems a little weird, but
And it
Well,
works. I think it's alright.
summoners would not use that over the haste buff because the thing about a summoner is most of your damage is not a problem once your minions get to the mob. It's the time of your minions being like, do I want to attack that mob? Maybe. I don't know. Pretty comfortable just floating here doing nothing.
Also,
All right, let's fight 'em.
enemies just moving out of the way. Like the zombie attack animation has them like they walk up to a mob, maybe if you're lucky, and they were like, "Oh, there's a mob," and then they hit the mob, and the mob might just be like, a zombie. Let me walk over there to the other zombie and attack it," and they miss, and they miss a lot. That's I think that actually, by the way, the main reason people always get that wrong. They're like, "Zombies do no damage." Zombies do a crap ton of damage if the
Oh, yeah.
target is stationary. And not
Really
like
good
not
for
moving
it.
at all, and it's the only target. For single target, zombies actually do quite a bit of damage if you link them with damage. But their like hit animation and their AI is like a little bit wonky, so they are more used as tanks. While there are some specters who would like really spam single targets out and spam them to death.
how
Like
does,
animate weapons also have good AI, and SRS also like target somewhat well.
how does that new belt that gives your minions your flask effect, does that do like onslaught and everything?
It does
Like,
everything. Taste of Hate, Winters.
is that crazy? Is that broken?
The
Or-
downside is you don't have flasks anymore. That's why it's kind of balanced. People use that with the what's called the coruscating elixir and blow their own minions up for minion instability and one shot everything. That was pretty cool.
What?
Yeah, and
That's
Vinctors
insane.
gets the entire map essentially shocked when you use it.
Yeah, because
Or like everything you see on screen.
yeah,
with
It's
insane
really
damage.
it's insanely strong, but the downside actually balances it out. So it's a huge risk. I think that's one of the cooler uniques that we had in a while. It enables a lot of stuff. It has potentially extreme high power levels, and it still has a huge downside that you really have to build around.
Yeah, and it's a well-designed unique.
Yep.
It's a fantastic one because of it does have inherent power, but you give up basically all your defense except for Val Discipline for it.
Yep. You could make it like an occultist maybe with it. I thought that you can actually like rely on some of the like other mechanics that you can use to recharge your ES, and like try to make the work around that. But yeah, it's tricky to
Thing is,
make
minions
actually
would
make
get
it
the
work.
kill, not you, so you don't get like the occultist regen.
No, not the regen, but if your ES starts to regen, then you
Oh, right, that
then
it
it doesn't
doesn't break.
stop, which help, that alone helps a lot. I played my CA character, and that alone is insane.
Yeah, but would you really on a minion build be doing something other than Necromancer?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty tough sell. Well, I mean, yes, you could.
Guardian works well. I mean, the thing is, like, if you have a build that revolves around blowing up your minions, for example, with instant.
Oh yeah, if you're
you don't
doing the
really
blowing, I was thinking of like Vinctors and
Oh, yeah, if you're doing, I mean, you kind of get the Vinctors to compensate for the loss of offensive stats, but then you're just like shifting around stuff and trying something for the sake of trying it, and not actually like this is also cool. But yeah, I think you could do that. I think the Vinctors and like Vinctors, a taste of hate, and maybe like some of the like survival.
Series Promise because
It's a risk
that's,
promise, yeah, because everyone uses that.
they'll wreck face.
Yeah, they will wreck face, and I think that's yeah, I think that might actually be worth it. Like if you're using Revenants and you give them like 20% lightning pen from Vinctors, I mean, oh, come on, that's pretty insane because their damage, their shooty projectiles are lightning.
And then all the deeps.
Yeah.
And then you can realize they're not going to do much with summoners ever because you've played a summoner and you're like, oh, there's some problems. I don't think they're going to fix them anytime soon.
Guardian,
My Spectre's dead. Well, just have to open that map and hope they spawn because those merciless revenants aren't going to do well in these red tier maps. Do 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 do.
Does the aquamarine flask, would that put chilled ground under every single
Everywhere,
minion?
yes.
also the smoke one, the Sid Knight also works.
That seems crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
I like that kind of play style where, I mean, yes, you give up your flasks, which is a huge downside, but I like moving around, you know, actually dodging what monsters do. That's one of the good things about Path is that you still can do that somewhat. And
You can do that
when-
a lot actually.
yeah, and other games like the combat is, you know, kind of automatic in a way. There's really none of that. It's just mitigation. I like how Path you can choose to play like a super squishy character, but then you have to be on your game. Like you have to be manually moving your character very intelligently.
But it does move a little bit away from that when it gets faster and faster due to
Yes.
how stun works in the game. Because stun is based off all damage types. You know, the harder you hit the mob, they get stunned. If you crit, you can freeze them. All that fun stuff. And so your offense drastically enhances your defense.
Yeah.
And then leech and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, there is obviously mechanical playing helps massively just to physically evade shit.
It's just sometimes it's just even how much you can like forgo some forms of defense. For example, if you just use one life flask, which is pretty tricky to use, you get an additional utility flask, which can be a lot of damage or a lot of extra defense for oh shit situations. So that's pretty cool.
Or you could leave that flask slot empty and call it build diversity.
Yeah, and troll your stream viewers with it because everyone will come in and ask, why is he only using 4 flasks? That's the same reason when people skin their health flask with like small health flasks.
Oh, I love that.
And then people come in, why is he only using a small health flask?
Yep.
I
love
should
that.
do that.
Yeah, you would definitely like you would enjoy that. People going, like, what is this?
Can I skin them as all mana flasks or do they have to be health
Oh,
flasks?
I think you can skin them like whatever you want, but I'm not 100% on that. But you can I
meta.
think you can also skin like unique flasks over stuff and stuff like that.
I want to skin all my flasks to mana flasks.
A new 5 mana flask build.
The best build.
Definitely. Alright, we're 1.5 hours in. Anything else we want to discuss?
No. I don't think Ralph would do well with any Dark Souls discussions, seeing as he's a pleb.
Yeah.
I'm a pleb.
Yeah, non-Dark Souls player equals pleb.
What? No, I'm broke. I can't afford Dark Souls.
Grats
can-
on beating Dark Souls 3. It's
Isn't-
Yoji.
Oh yeah, I'm not a pleb anymore. I actually beat that
Enjoyed the
game.
disappointing ending.
The last boss fight, man. That boss fight just
You were
disappointed.
so disheartened by it.
Yeah,
You should try PvP in Dark Souls 3.
I will
know,
probably do it. Yeah.
I know you're not a huge PvPer, but Dark Souls 3, it's different. It's
I
worth it.
imagine it's very fun.
I
It
saw-
looks pretty good from what I've seen.
By the way, if you're broke, you can always try Dark Souls 1 if you haven't played it. That game's still insanely good, and it's only like $5 or something like right now, so maybe 10.
Your video, Yoji, when you were watching the cutscene, you're like, "Oh, it looks like they're trading." Oh no, they're not trading.
Oh, the Abyss Watchers, yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I laughed so hard at that. He just,
That-
like, stabs him right in the
First
gut
try.
as you say it.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
But Dark Souls is one of the few games that actually kind of make me rage sometimes. Like I don't even rage at like League of Legends or whatever, at all basically. But yeah, Dark Souls sometimes really makes me rage when they like throw these like super dick-wad mobs at you that actually stand there with the shield and then the kick button it doesn't work.
Have you done a compilement of your Dragon Slayer fight because of your rage moment, or that's just future? Don't have time to do it.
That's something I will do. I'm currently working on a PoE build guide, and then this is probably next, and then I got some other
Because
stuff that I
watching
kind of have
you
to do.
actually rage was just hilarious because
Yeah.
you're so calm. You were mad.
Yeah, well, actually bad. That guy pissed me off, but that boss fight was really, really well. What I'm really bad at in the Dark Souls is when boss have like really slow wind-up animations on their attacks. Because I don't know if I'm getting impatient or I just like, if I find it hard to find the timing to dodge slow attacks. When a boss like raises the sword and like slams me instantly, I just dodge. That works. But if you just like lift the sword, leans back a little bit, leans forward a little bit, and then like leans to the side a little bit, and then like boosh! And I'm like, oh fuck, I don't get that timing. And that's what the boss is all about. He has like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different really slow swinging attacks, and I just suck at that. So hard.
But it made it so great to watch.
Yeah, and that I will definitely make that one a highlight. And probably the second round of trying the double prince boss as well.
The Double Prince, it's just a padding fight, which is disappointing.
But the presentation is so well done.
Oh, it's a great presentation, but the first phase should just be gone.
Yeah. The first phase could be. I don't know. I kind of can see why it's there because. Yeah, if you start with the second phase, I think people would get disheartened even more.
Well, I don't know. I liked Owen Smo, and Owen Smo disheartens you pretty fast.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, yeah, they could have just done the.
Ooh,
It's the
what's
second.
this?
It's the second
Ah,
last boss. As well.
fuck.
Yeah. Hey, why is there 2 people? Why are there both proper bosses? We're like fighting 2 bosses at the same time.
And the charge attack that O has.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine fighting like Daresso and Calm at the same time. Just come into a room that's about the Calm boss fight room, and they're like Daresso and Calm like, hey, what's up?
I would really enjoy if there was a map, a unique map or something in Path of Exile that could spawn 2 random bosses together.
Andy.
Wow.
And you wouldn't know. So you could get something retardedly easy, or you could get, a Lyra with something else.
Oh yeah, you get a Lyra and like something that's really easy to corpse explode. That would be pretty cool.
A Lyra, Core Malachi. What?
Yeah, he spawns like these
Malachi.
zombies with insane health, and then you just explode them on you. That would be cool.
You kill the heart. Boom! What the? Why could that even happen?
How much, like, how worth it is Dark Souls 3? Like, should I get it?
If you have,
If you are like, I want to buy a video game and spend the average amount of video game in your retail location, you'll get probably minimum of 80 hours if you don't rage quit.
If you don't rage quit.
yeah, that's a serious concern. Like if you never played a Souls game, what I usually recommend to people, if you don't mind like playing somewhat old schooly games, and seeing as you are a Path of Exile player, you don't mind playing somewhat old schooly games that feel like a little bit.
Yeah,
little
play
bit
Dark Souls
unpolished.
1.
Play Dark Souls 1,
And if you want more Dark Souls 1,
play more Dark
play
Souls.
Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, play Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls 2 is not more Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 2 is more similar Souls-like gameplay and like that does a lot of different things that some people really hated and other people really like. But yeah, Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3 are like basically more of the same. So if you like Dark Souls 1, and the game is insanely good. It's probably one of the in my top 3 of best games I ever played.
It is my utopia gaming experience as of now.
The
Still
number
waiting to be
one.
beaten.
Oh, nice.
What's the
Really?
other games up there? It's Yoji for you.
Oh,
Dark Souls.
for like gameplay, I think Terranigma is pretty high up there. I don't know if anyone knows that. That's never been released in the Americas, so that's why whenever you talk about that to American people, they're like, "What is this? It's an SNES game. It's kind of like Zelda-like. It has
Sounds good.
way better story. It actually has
Not
like
hard to do.
very metaphorical story and better combat. The sprites are amazingly beautiful. The music is good. And it plays in like some weird alternative version of our world, and you're kind of like building up the world, and it's a weird game. It's an awesome game,
Interesting.
and
I'll take a
that's
look at it.
my favorite game ever. But yeah, it never came out in the Americas.
We're done-ish, aren't we?
Yeah, we're basically done.
All right, Ralph, plug yourself shamelessly before I say some things that people don't want to hear.
Come check out my YouTube channel, RalphTheExile. I'm a pretty smelly guy. I talk about PoE a lot. That's it. I can't stream. My internet isn't good enough.
He needs help. No internet.
So someone get this guy some of these.
He
Internets.
gets his brother with like a coat hanger poking the router, like, almost.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I just have a YouTube channel.
Anything to add? It's Yoji.
Yeah, check out RalphTheExile. He's really good, like really good. He does awesome content, and he's just does not get the recognition for it yet. It's kind of working. His channel's growing, but the content he's making is probably one of the best we have right now, I would say.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's Yoji's recommendation. Mine as well. Check Ralph's content. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty conversational. So if you enjoy that type of discussion, take a look at it. Other than that, if you don't, you'll get shanked like a bitch. So fuck off. Enjoy your day. Goodbye.
Have fun, guys.